which in turn makes your husband happier and makes your relationship better and makes him more productive doing the things he needs to do. So it's all, a system that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's why so many women are coming to Islam, is because I just think that what society is offering them doesn't compare. Even with all its glitz and glamour, it just doesn't compare. And I think that, in Islam, the submitting to Allah and just giving in to your Creator and doing what He wants you to do, I think in many ways it's just much more in a woman's nature. And I think that's why it's a much easier transition for a woman to submit to Islam. I think there's this, not to generalize, but, there's less ego there and less, arrogance, like it's all about me, and I'm the one who makes the money, and it's Allah has nothing to do with it. I think that's the way a lot of people think, and so I think that's just why I think there's so many more women converting to Islam. It's not like many people think that maybe we're all falling in love with Middle Easterners and they're making us become Muslim. That's just not the reality.
That's a big stereotype.
It's a huge stereotype. It's not even a stereotype in the Muslim community. They think that you became Muslim because you got married to somebody. Well, maybe you got married to someone and he wasn't a practicing Muslim, and you became Muslim and you put him in check, because that happens,
No, but it's the truth, and like you say, in a relationship, usually you find that the woman is the better Muslim in the family. But let me ask you, also you told us earlier that you have a business, clothing business.
Yes.
So tell me a bit about that.
So, on the side, because I do have a full-time job in corporate America.
We'll talk about both. Talk about both.
No, so since about 2000, I've been importing clothing from the Middle East and Asia, primarily to fulfill a need in our community for scarves and, Islamic clothing. I'm actually one of just a few women who do that here locally, and I actually have a lot of non-Muslim clientele too, so it's...
Do they tell you why the non-Muslim clientele? Do they tell you why the clothing is appealing to them?
Well, they're not buying dresses and things like that for me. They're definitely buying like scarves and pashminas and everything. It's women like accessories. So I don't think that doesn't matter what your religion is. People like accessories, and whether you wear the hijab or not, you want something that's like the latest fashion, and you want to look. And those of us who wear hijab, many of us want to look modest, but we also want to look nice and presentable. And my focus in my business too is providing kind of some more professional attire. So I've actually manufactured a line of clothing that is a little bit more contemporary looking, still in keeping with Islamic. I'm a very full believer of loose and things coming to your knees, like shirts and that, but I made some like business suits that pinstriped but very long jackets, and because me as a professional woman, right now a lot of things that are in style in Western countries are loose, and that's the style right now, but 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it was impossible to find anything in the stores. So I started sewing a lot of things, pantsuits and everything, because there was nothing out there. Now you can find things that, okay, that's a dress, wear it over pants, and it's a long shirt, right? But, so that's a lot of focus of my business, that the actual clothing is meant kind of more professional ladies and things that look a little bit more contemporary, not so ethnic. I think when you, like myself, I'm an American Muslim, so I don't necessarily have to dress like I look like I'm from a foreign country. I converted to Islam. I didn't become an Arab. I didn't become a Pakistani or whatever. I'm still American. So not that I don't wear things that are culturally from other places, but when I go into my corporate America job, I already am going to look ethnic to people wearing a scarf.
Well, tell us a bit about your corporate America job.
This is the part that's gonna get really boring for most people to hear. No, so right now, most of my career has been focused on account management, which is sort of in between operations and sales. Really kind of developing relationships with your clients and making them love your company and want to do business with you, and maintaining that relationship. And the current company that I work for is called the Institute for Corporate Productivity, I4CP, and it's research-based, so we provide primary and secondary research to people working in the human resource groups within mainly Fortune 500 companies. and they basically buy a yearly subscription to our research in all areas around human capital management and workforce productivity. So everything from compliance, like sexual harassment, religious discrimination, all the way to how do I recruit the top talent, engage that top talent, and retain it. So it's just a broad spectrum of research around the workforce. And for me, I mean, I have an MBA, so definitely there's an interest there in understanding what drives people, and I myself have made career moves as well, and how does a company retain talent and engage their workforce, and doing all that within compliance.
But let me ask you a question which is generally in your field. I mean, what do you know of the situations of Muslims in their workplaces and how they're being treated, and is the workplace friendly environment for Muslim employees today in general? Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's really, it depends a lot. I think that if you're sort of higher up in corporate America, in many ways, because you're dealing with people that are educated and intelligent, then, and it also has a lot to do with your own personality and how you present things and how you come across to people, but I don't feel like there's a lot of issues out there. I feel that usually just in, not so much what I do now, but I did work for a couple nonprofits. One was CARE Seattle and one was the Hate Free Zone of Washington. Most of the cases we dealt with were people working like assembly line type jobs. So their supervisor, their manager maybe has a high school education. What does he know about religious discrimination? What does he know about the laws of this country? Probably not a whole lot. That's probably why he just told you can't pray, right? Or he told you can't wear that thing here. And so...
But you just mentioned something called the Hate Free Zone.
The Hate Free Zone of Washington, yeah.
What's that all about? What was that organization's basis?
Well, that organization started right after 9/11 to deal with post 9/11 backlash on mainly the Muslim community, but also other communities that were perceived as Muslims, like the Sikh community. But also, Seattle has the second largest Somali refugee community in the country, second only to Minnesota. And so that group is just very misunderstood. And after 9/11, there was a lot of bullying in schools, and, Somalis and Sikh men being dragged out of their taxi cabs and beat up, and people became very kind of heightened awareness of Muslims. And before, if you saw someone wearing the hijab at work, you're like, whatever. And then after 9/11, it's like, well, I can't accept that. It was kind of like, you're either for 'em or against them, or us, with us or against us, that whole mentality. So we saw a lot of those issues taking place. And a woman named Pramila Jayapal, she started the Hate Free Zone, not a Muslim, but she just saw this need. She's a person of color and an immigrant herself. And I think that she just connected with the community and just couldn't stand the atrocities that were happening, and just saw a real need for education around these certain groups, and went to work. I mean, I didn't start a Hate Free Zone right after, I was there, I think in like 2003, 4-ish. And I actually was the operations manager, so I was dealing much more with just the operations of the organization, not with cases. But there was a group of Somali women who worked at an assembly, and they were really harassed, and they ended up filing with the EEOC, and they actually won a huge settlement because of that, back pay and all of that. But I think, it also has to do with your industry. Before this, I worked in telecommunications. That was a little bit harder as sort of a kind of the good old boy club, in the telecom industry. And although many of my coworkers were very supportive, I also had coworkers that just said some really crazy stuff too. But that was just kind of the environment. But now, before I worked here, I worked for another kind of market research type company, and young people, they're a little more educated about Islam and just different cultures, and it's a little bit more of it was a global company too, that had a lot to do with, there's a lot of diversity there in general. And then now working in this organization that is focused on research around human resources, I mean, the last group of people at a company who's probably going to have any sort of issue with you as a Muslim is going to be the human resources person. They're the ones usually on your side, right?